Hi guys, welcome back to Electronic Media. This is Mr. Roper, and I'm here to explain our latest project, which is the Believable Space Mockup. For this project, we're going to be learning about creating mockups of environments, realistic environments where you could show what your product or your design and graphic design would look like inside that space. We've done some of these in the digital photo class. We used mock-ups before for billboards, for street signs and bus signs and that kind of thing. So for this one, I'm going to have you build your own environment for a character of your choice. On Google Classroom, you'll find a handout for this project. You can see some student examples of the work there, as well as a description for the goals and objectives for this one. Really what we're trying to do is number one, make clean selections with no rough edges, just very, very neatly cut out. We want to be able to manipulate those images to put them on perspective so that they look like they're in the environment at the right size and shape. And we want to be able to add accurate, realistic lighting, bright spots, shadows, that kind of thing using layer masks, the burn and dodge tool. So we're going to go over all of that in today's demo. What I suggest for this one is first choose a fictional character that you're going to do your project on. Use a character from pop culture or from a movie or a book, and think about what their environment would look like. What kind of things would they have in their living space that you could include in this one? There are some requirements for things that have to go in your environment. So you'll see I put a minimum of 3 pieces of large furniture, 5 to 7 personal items, at least 1 window, if not more, and 2 or more light sources. Just keep track of that as you go. Sketch it all out on paper so you know where things are going to go ahead of time, and that'll really help with the process. I do want to see your sketches turned in with your final work, so make sure you do that step and don't rush into it. Okay. Then what you're going to do is download some high resolution images that you can use to build out the space. Now, what I've done is made available to you my texture library. And my texture library is just a Google folder that I've been adding to over the years. It's got tons of high-res photos in there of different surfaces that you can use. So, for example, surface textures, you're going to find things like wood, brick, cement, marble, metal, all the different surfaces that you might want to use to build out some objects. You may also have to look online for furniture. Like I looked up chair images, pulled it up, got a nice high resolution one here, and downloaded it to use in my project. So I've done that ahead of time. You guys can collect those ahead of time, put them into a folder that'll work for you. Okay. I'm going to jump over to Photopea, and in Photopea, I'm going to set up a new document for print. I want it to be a letter size piece of paper. And I want it to be landscape. So I'm going to have it be 11 inches wide, 8.5 inches tall. Create, and there is my document. Okay. It's also probably going to be helpful to have rulers open for this. So I'm going to do view rulers. I can click in this top corner, make sure it's set to inches, and maybe mark off where my walls and windows and all that stuff are going to go. So I'm going to put a wall, and I'll add a window if I can grab it here. There we go. Window over on this side. This will be my floor. This will be my back wall. You can get the idea. Okay. So I'm going to open up those texture images that I downloaded. Let's go File, Open. And in my downloads, I've got some different pieces here. I've got a wood background. I've also got a marble background that I'm going to use for this. And I'm going to take my move tool and I'm going to drag this up and drop it into my layout. Do a little bit of resizing here to fill out this back wall. So let's go Edit, Free Transform. And I'll just enlarge this up and move it right to there. Okay, that's going to be the back wall of this room. Then I'm going to do the same thing with my wood. So I'll take the wood piece, drag it up, drop it down, Control T, oops, not Control T, I'm not in Photoshop, Edit, Free Transform, and I'll pull this out a little bit so that it fills the bottom half of the screen. Okay, now that's starting to get there, but you can see the perspective's off on this floor. It's not, it shouldn't be vertical, it should be coming towards us. So that's where I'm going to use over here under the edit menu, edit, free transform. Right below that is transform. I'm going to use perspective. And the way the perspective tool works is you grab a corner of this, and as you pull it out, you're going to notice that the floor tilts and becomes a horizontal floor rather than a vertical one. Okay, so I can pull that out quite a bit. It's going to make it look like the floor is coming towards us. We'll go ahead and press enter and zoom back in. Okay, so I've got the beginnings of my environment here. Let me bring in my chair image. So I'm going to go grab that, copy, and I'll bring it in here, paste. And you can see this one's going to present a little bit of a problem because it's on a white background, but as long as I find an image that's on a solid color background, I can make this pretty easy to work with. Let me get the sizing down here, right? That's pretty good. And zoom in. And what I want to do is select all of the white in this photo and leave only the chair behind. So first thing I'm going to do is come up with my magic wand. Magic wand tool's right here. And I'm going to click on the white of this photo. You see it grabs all the white in the image. But I also need to get the white in between these parts here. So I'm going to hold down Shift and click and click and click. And now all the white around the chair is selected. If I were to delete this right now, what I'd end up with is a tiny white fuzzy edge around there. And that's not going to be really ideal for us when we cut things out. So I'm going to go back a step. And before I erase this, what I want to do is take this selection and make it just a little bit bigger. I want it to expand by like 2 or 3 pixels so that it doesn't leave any white border behind. So to do that, with any selection that you've made, you go up to the select menu and you do modify, expand. Take that selection and expand it. Let's try 3 pixels. It's going to expand to be a little bit bigger. And now when I hit delete, you'll notice that the edges are nice and clean. Okay, I don't have any white fuzzies left on there. So this is going to give me a nice clean cutout for this chair. Okay, chair looks like it's in perspective, looks like it's sitting on the floor, but it's missing a shadow. So let's make a shadow here. I'm going to take this chair layer, go ahead and rename it chair, and I'm going to right click it, duplicate that layer. And a little trick in Photoshop, if you want to select everything that's on a layer, all you have to do is control click the thumbnail and it'll select everything that's on that layer. So you see it grabbed all the pixels that make up that chair. And I'm going to fill this in with black. Edit, fill, and use black. Okay. So now I've got a silhouette version of that chair. Okay. I'm going to move it down a little bit. I need to flip it upside down. So I'm going to go edit, transform, flip vertical. Maybe. Transform, flip vertical. Here, maybe I need to move it around a little bit. Edit, transform, flip vertical. Why will you not work? Well, here, I'll rotate it just in this case. I don't know why that froze up on me, but I'll do this just the same. Edit, transform, flip horizontal. Oh, terrible. Okay, let's imagine that this is facing the right way. Something's going on with my computer right now, but you can see it. So I've got this, it's flipped upside down, and that's going to give me a very, very hard shadow. It doesn't look very believable. I want it to fade as it disappears here. So 2 things I'm going to do. I'm going to come up to the filter menu. I'm going to go filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And what the Gaussian blur filter does is as you turn the slider up, you notice it's going to get fuzzier and fuzzier, more and more blurry. Oop, too much. Let's take it down a notch there, Roper, slow down. All right. And now I've got a nice fuzzy shadow coming out from behind that chair. I'm also going to use the perspective tool again to make it match the floor. So I'm going to go edit, transform, perspective, zoom out. Let's take this edge and I'm just going to hold down shift, pull out this corner. What is going on with Photopea right now? Let's see if I can get it this way. Okay, I'll grab this corner and I'm going to drag it this way so that it kind of goes with the flow of the floor. You might need to shrink it a little bit as well. Free transform. Let's drag it in a little bit. It's looking like it's getting a little bit too big. And enter. And then, of course, I want to move the shadow underneath the chair so that the legs are on top of it. Okay. I don't know if I can flip this now that this is fixed. Let's see. Transform, flip horizontally. Doesn't want to let me do it. Okay. So anyways, there's my shadow. If it's still looking too dark, you remember that you can go to your layers palette and you can turn the opacity down and fade it out even more. Okay? Just try to make it look believable in that space. Okay. So this is basically how we would go. We'll search up some other images here. Maybe I can find a dining table. Okay. And let's go to images. And we want to try to find something that's got a nice clean background on it. I'm liking this one. Let me take a look at this photo. I don't know if I can copy this, copy image. See if I can drop it in. And it's going to come in that same way. It's still looking a little bit big, so I'll go edit, transform, grab it from a corner, hold down shift, get it up kind of to a believable size. This looks like it could work with this chair, like the chair would tuck underneath of there. That's looking pretty good. And then I'm going to just use the same technique. I'm going to grab a magic wand and try to select all that background, add in this, add in this, add in this. I'm going to have to also get the shadow here. So you can see I'm just holding down shift and I'm grabbing all the different pieces of the shadow. Let's get a few more in there. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I want to get as close as possible so I don't have a lot of cleanup. Let's get that. And then this piece. I'm going to actually leave some of this mess on here just so you can I can show you how I'd clean it up. And of course, I'm going to expand this a little bit. So I'll go select, modify, expand. 3 pixels should do it. And this time, instead of deleting, I'm going to go and make a mask of it. So I come over to my layers. I go down to make mask. Oops. And select inverse. Sorry. Select inverse, grab the table, now make mask. There we go. And there's my table. You can see that it actually ended up with a little bit of like leftovers hanging on here. So the reason I made a mask this time is I can click on that mask, take a black paintbrush. Let's grab my paintbrush here. And I can use this to go in, and anything that's looking messy or hanging on there, I can just erase it out using that paintbrush tool. Okay, so kind of handy if you need to clean up any edges and get rid of any little white bits. All right, zoom back out. Let's see if we can get this to work this time for us for the shadow. I'm going to take this layer, duplicate it. Now this layer has a mask on it, so before I can fill it in with black, what I've got to do is apply this mask. I'm going to go to the mask layer and right click it and just say apply. You can see that it cut out the table using that mask now. There's not a mask and a photo, there's just the photo. And we'll go to this one and control click the thumbnail, edit, fill with black. Okay. And let's go edit, transform. Still not gonna let me do it, but it's a thing. I have a feeling it's because I have this little video head in the bottom. And then let's blur it, filter, Gaussian blur, turn down its opacity, and edit, transform, perspective. I'm going to just pull this guy out so it kind of matches the floor and it also matches the chair direction. Okay, so this is adding shadows. Now the one thing I haven't covered yet is how do you add in light sources, okay, lights and shadows in the room. Let's say that there's some lamps hanging down from up above here. What I want to do is create a glowing light over this. So I got to think about where would all the light sources be coming from. First thing, I can go to my background layer. This is the back wall. I'm going to take my burn tool, if I can get to it. Hey. Let me move this out a little bit. Burn tool. And I'm going to use this to go in and darken up this background a little bit. So I will make my brush bigger. And I'm going to darken the wall. So with the burn tool, this has a hard edge right now. I'll come up to the top to make sure that the brush's hardness is set really, really low. And I'm just going to brush around the outside of the wall, creating some little shadows, okay? Do the same to the floor here. Let's go a little bit bigger. Make the floor a little bit darker around the edges, a little bit darker over on this side. Maybe there'd be some darkness along the wall. So I'll just zip across this way. Zip across, there we go. See how it's putting a little shadow on the floor there, right where it hits the wall. And now I'm getting some kind of mood lighting to the room. If I wanted to create like a spotlight coming down on the table, instead of using the burn tool, I'm going to switch gears here and use, if I can get to it again, I'm going to use the dodge tool this time. The dodge tool lets you make things brighter. So if I go to that table layer, make sure that I'm on the photo of the table, make this brush bigger. Again, light is always going to have softer edges, so we're going to turn the softness down there. And I can highlight just by clicking on that table where that light would be coming from. So maybe there's like a bright light coming from up above and it's shining on this table. I would see it right there. I would probably also see it on the back wall. So I'm going to go to the back wall and I'll brighten this up. See how it's creating like a little glow coming down. And then if I had an object sitting on that table, it would be nice and highlight. You can also change the color of the light that's coming into the room by adding on some filters and things, but I'm going to show you how to do that in a second demonstration later this week when we get together. Okay, this should be a good start though to get you going. You can start putting in your different pieces of furniture, windows, light sources, and then remember, whenever you're working inside Photopea, if you're finished for the day and you know you're going to need to come back to it later, always go up to File, Save as PSD. That's going to save it with your layers, and you'll be, next time you open it up, you'll still have everything intact. You can go from there. Okay. I hope you guys are doing good. This should get you started on the project, and we'll see you very soon. Thanks again.